All right, y'all. So what we did, we were discussing. We just finished Great Britain, and we talked about how the hope for change was quashed by the old Tories. But in the conclusion, I did give you a foreshadowing that in 1822 there was a hope as the young Tories seized power. Kind of ironic, not really ironic, but more on the opposite. France is going to go quite the opposite. We're going to shift to reactionary policies. By the time we get to 1825, as Great Britain's young Tories are creating these type of changes, Great Britain's actually going to go, France is going to go backwards going towards that. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So the restoration of the Bourbon dynasty. So we're now looking at 1814, 1815. We see that the Napoleonic age is over with, and the Congress of Vienna allowed France to have a quasi-conservative constitution called the Charter of 1814. The reason the Congress of Vienna allows for this is because they realized the French people needed some type of a semblance, if you will, of revolutionary change. So the Charter of 1814 will be appear to have some enlightened ideals, such as Code Napoleon. So that's going to be part of the legacy, if you will, of Napoleon. That even as he's ousted from power, the Charter codifies the Code of Napoleon within the new government. But I want to point out this is not at all a liberal revolution. This is a significant limitation. There is no ministerial responsibility. And right now, you're probably saying, "Was I don't know what that word is." This is a really cool, hip 19th century word term. Ministerial responsibility is the belief that all of the government ministers, when I say ministers, secretaries, leaders, they must be accountable to the legislature. So if I am a king's minister, if I am the minister of finance or the minister of war, according to ministerial responsibility, even though I am under the king, all of my actions are still held accountable by the legislature. Ministerial responsibility kind of goes back to the checks and balances of Montesquieu and separation of power. And that's the element. All of the 19th century liberals begin to say there needs to be ministerial responsibility, or in fact, we'll have absolutism. With that said, the Charter of 1814, with liberal ideas such as Code Napoleon and religious toleration, there is no ministerial responsibility, which basically says the Constitution is meaningless. The king still has arbitrary power, has absolute power. So what has changed? Really nothing. And that's why the Congress of Vienna allows for it. And unfortunately for France, this is going to lead to polarization. And as we look at the polarization, the first group I want to talk about are the Republicans. Remember, these are not the Republicans of the United States. They're going to be the far left. The Republicans are the ones that they want a republic. They want universal male suffrage. They want power to the people rather than power to the dynasty. And these are the Republicans. They're kind of like leftovers from the Jacobins and the second phase of the revolution. And they're going to want liberal change. So here's where the charter is. Charter. And over here's the liberal. But the other side is a group called the ultra royalists. The ultra royalists, they are the nobility, they are the people who support absolutism. They actually don't particularly like this guy. This is Louis the 18th. They don't like Louis the 18th. They think he's a compromiser with the charter. They don't want their charter. They don't want the Code Napoleon. They're the maestre, the pillars of conservatism. And everything seems okay as long as Louis the 18th is still in power. As long as this guy's there, he is a kind of the bridge. Maybe something will hold together. He's kind of like his Louis the 16th. As long as he's still in power, that Constitution of 1791 is in play. Once he gone, it's gone. Unfortunately for France, in 1825, when Louis the 18th dies, his brother Charles the 10th is he's not a great guy. Here's a painting of him. He looks so weird. He's the last Bourbon. He's clearly a reactionary king. When we look at that, if we look at this, We have the Republicans, the ultra royalists, that Overton window. Remember, that's the part. This is where we're supposed to be, the Overton window. Well, he's going to drag that way over here. Whoop, whoop. So now it's no longer moderate, is so far right, and the Republicans are now going to feel alienated. And I hope that makes sense. If not, maybe this will help you guys out. As a reactionary king, he sought to restore monarchical liberties. He wants absolutism. He doesn't like the charter. He even wanted his friends back. He issued indemnities to the emigres for the lost land during the revolution. Remember, guys, the emigres, they're the nobles who fled the Great Fear in 1789. They helped organize foreign armies of the coalitions, the first, second, third, even the eight coalitions. They've attempted to invade France several times. They were enemies of the French people. And at the outcome of the French Revolution, many of the emigres remained in exile. And what he does, not only does he give them amnesty, which means, hey, we're going to forgive you for your past sin, he's going to offer indemnities. Indemnities are payments for losses. So what he's going to do is he wants more nobility. He wants more of his friends in there. He wants to strengthen that reactionary right. So he invites the emigres back and with payment. And where does the king get his money? Of course, taxes. And that really is going to be where the Republicans are saying enough. The Republicans go to print culture. They begin to print cartoons that attack Charles X. They begin to demand revolutionary change. And Charles X's like, enough's enough. And in July 1830, at the height of this thing, France is celebrating Bastille Day. There's a sense of drunkenness, partiness. This is the moment of joy and happiness, kind of like our 4th of July, if you will. Then you get this. It's announced that France has restarted, reclaimed its empire as it claimed a northern African colony, Algeria. There's a sense of excitement. The newspaper has shifted away of its hatred of Charles X and really printed all this French patriotism and romanticism of what's happening. And this is when Charles X, he loses his mind. He believes that now people like him, he's cool. So he issues these things called the July Ordinances. And the July Ordinances repeals the charter. No longer does the charter exist. He's getting rid of that. And this creates the immediate cause of the revolution of 1830. So I do think that this is a really good comparison, right? If we compare it, we see Great Britain and France. They both kind of shifted right during this time period. The significant difference is by the time we get to the 1820s, Great Britain has kind of come back to its progressiveness, at least in some offering some changes. France is quite the opposite. So the conclusion, throughout the 1820s, Bourbon France shifted so far right that any hope of liberal change vanished. The Republicans are angry. The Republicans are alienated. And that's why by 1830, France is on the verge of what we call the July Revolution or the Revolution of 1830. I hope that makes sense. The highlights here, if you're like, hey, Wass, let me go ahead. I'm going to go back to it real quick. I'm going to highlight some key things, what you need to know, what we need to know. Not there. We need to know, first of all, we need to know the Charter of Nobility, the Charter of 1814. You need to make sure you remember this term, ministerial responsibility. Ministerial responsibility is where the king's ministers are accountable to Congress or to the legislature. We talk about the polarization. You need to be able to identify the Republicans and ultra royalists. We need to identify that Louis XVIII, though he's not a great king, he's the only one providing some stability. Charles X, he's an ultra royalist, reactionary king. Indemnities to the emigres. Print culture and Republicans. Algeria, and then the July Ordinances. And that's what we got. So I do hope that makes sense. If you have questions, of course, you should message me or ask.